Alright, in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how I get a more, or how to get a more cinematic look using my LUTs. Alright, let's begin. First, we're going to make 2 additional nodes. We hit alternate S. Alright, and in the first one, we're going to add our fantasy filter conversion. So fantasy filter to V-LOG. And right away, that's going to convert the fantasy filter into log footage. So this is without the conversion. This is with the conversion. The next thing we're going to do is adjust the highlights and shadows. This, to me, is the major secret to getting the cinematic look. Before you apply your grade, before you do any coloring, if you can get your highlights and shadows correct, it will have a big impact on your video. So what we're going to do is reduce the saturation all the way down to 0. And to help prove my point, I have a screenshot here from the movie Candyman. And you know, I always go or look at movies that resemble things I want to make, or have tones that I would, you know, be more likely to work with. So nothing Steven Spielberg, or something that is so heavily graded that I can't achieve. But in this, you can clearly see how the shadows, the midtones, and the highlights all look. And you can see in a movie how much contrast and shadow that they have. And this is not just this movie. This is pretty much any movie you look at. If you convert it or reduce it down to black and white, you're going to see lots of contrast. And for many people who do videos, a lot of their videos look similar to this. They have a faded look. They haven't really gone in and taken the time to adjust shadows and highlights. So with this, I'm going to go in right now and adjust my shadows and highlights to mimic this right here as close as possible. So we're on the first dot right here. We're going to add 1 dot right there, and just like in the previous tutorials, I'm going to start adjusting my shadows. Next, I adjust my midtones, and this is what's going to end up giving us the overall look. And next, the highlights. Now if you notice, the highlights in this image, they're not that hot. You know, you can notice them, but they're not that bright. So we're gonna try and match that as much as possible. Alright, so that looks good enough. One thing I noticed, the shadows are very deep. You know, you can see much more black in the shadows than what I have. So I'll bring it down a little bit more. Alright, to me, not perfect, but you know, we're dealing with a very cheap camera and a very expensive one. So the dynamic range here, you can definitely see more tones overall than what we currently use. So this is good enough. I'll bring down my shadows a little bit, my highlights a little bit more. There. Alright, next we're going to bring up our saturation to 50%. If you notice, sometimes I go over that, and it's because I'm not, you know, if you go over it a few points, it won't make much difference. So as you can see here, what a difference the contrast or the shadows and the highlights make. Amazing. So we do this, and that's the color scene. So I'm going to match this as much as possible. And as you know, next on the third one, we're going to add in our base. And of course, that looks nothing like this. So what we're going to do is add another node, alternate S, and I'm going to reduce the reds because that is what my scene has. It's too much red. So we click on this third dot right here, and in my other tutorials I should have told you this, but it's something that I just found out myself. If you click this, you're going to adjust the reds. So I click that, and we're going to bring down the reds, and right away you can see the difference. And already I'm getting a very close look. It's about as close as I'm going to get to this look. Now, one thing I can notice by looking at his scene versus my scene, you may not be able to tell it, but there's a light blue into this entire scene. So we're going to add blue. To do that, we click on the first node right here, and I click on this right here. We got blue, green, red, and the overall scene. So I'm going to hit blue, and this Luma mix right here, what this does is allow me to adjust only one color. If it's all the way at 100%, watch what happens to my scopes over here. They all move, and I don't want that. I want only my blues to be affected. To get only one color to be affected, the Luma mix is what you have to adjust. So you're not mixing all the colors, you're bringing this down to 0 and just mixing this one color. So I'm gonna bring in a little blue. So if we take it away, that's what it looks like. If we add a lot, that's what it looks like. So I'm just gonna add in a little bit. And for me, that's going to probably be as close as I can get. So once we get that, we bring the Luma mix back up to 100%, and there you have it. So even though this was a very simple scene, or a very simple clip just in my bedroom, you can clearly see the difference. This is the fantasy filter, and as you can see how bright the lights are in there in my bedroom, and it just looks like any other clip. But once you learn how to adjust the highlights and the shadows, completely transforms what I shot. Looks nothing like a bedroom, just like a regular clip that I did. I hope this has taught you something, and even if you don't use my LUTs, it's still a great way to learn how to get a more movie-like feel and cinematic look to your video. It has nothing actually to do with how well you can color grade, but everything to do with how well you can add contrast and highlights and shadows. Now, if I had not added the contrast and the shadows and the highlights, it would not look like this. It would look very amateurish, or like just I was trying too hard. But